All right, so as you all can see, I'm in my new place. Haven't fully moved in quite yet, so it is pretty empty in here. But I did want to go ahead and try to get some videos out of the way, at least here in this new place. While I'm in the process of moving, to try to keep up with the content and be able to put out content, on a weekly basis, even during this move. So definitely appreciate you all for being patient with me. What I have here today is two new pickups from the house of Swiss Arabian. One being a very popular fragrance that's out there right now for Swiss Arabian, which is Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee. So this is the one that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about here recently. So you can see that there. And then I have another one that I haven't really seen too many people talk about, but that was on their website. And when I saw it, I was pretty interested in this one. And this is Tobacco 01 from Swiss Arabian. So we're just going to kind of get into both of these fragrances. As you can see with the Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee, this is it's the same sort of presentation that you would get with the Shaghaf Oud, series. Now, I do see that they did leave off the Shaghaf Oud part of the name, or the Oud part of the name anyway, and it's just Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee. But yeah, man, you have Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee. This is a eau de parfum concentration. You get this sort of plaque here on the front. You don't get anything on the sides or the top or the bottom. And on the back, you get the ingredients, the manufacturer date, stuff like that. This particular bottle, this was manufactured in October of this year. And then the box opens up like that, and you have the bottle. So again, it's gonna be the same type of bottle that you have within that sort of Shaghaf Oud series. And this definitely, the color is representative, in my opinion, of what you get in terms of the smell of this particular fragrance. So we'll get into that in just a moment. And then here with the Tobacco 01, you have Swiss Arabian up here, Tobacco 01 down here. This is an extrait de parfum. And this is also a 50 ml bottle. So you have that, nothing on the sides, nothing on the top or the bottom. And then just like the vanilla toffee box, you've got the ingredients, manufacturer date, stuff like that on the back. And then this just kind of comes off completely. And then you have the fragrance that sits in there like that. And it is a very nice looking bottle for sure. The cap, it is a pretty lightweight cap, so it's not like heavy, but the actual bottle itself does feel pretty solid and heavy in the hand. You've got the Swiss Arabian Tobacco 01 written on the front of the bottle, nothing on the back, and on the bottom you've got Extrait de Parfum. So you've got that down there at the bottom. All right. Now, I will have the notes on screen. I won't be reading them off in this video because I don't have my sort of Chromebook in front of me right now, which I normally would have to be able to read the notes off to you all. And I don't have them written down either. But again, I will have the notes for both of these fragrances on screen. And I'm just gonna kind of give my sort of initial thoughts on these two fragrances. So to start off with the Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee, this fragrance, when I first saw the note breakdown, it did include like a lot of sweeter types, of notes. Obviously toffee was one of the main notes that are in this particular fragrance, but there's some sweeter notes like dates, vanilla. I believe there's like some benzoin in this as well. And then also there's notes like coffee as well in this, coffee, walnut. And I can't really think of all of the notes just off of the top of my head, but this did seem like this was going to be like a very sweet, really sort of gourmand type of fragrance. And that is what it is, But at least in my opinion anyway, this fragrance, it doesn't come off as like a super feminine type of, gourmand fragrance. So it's not going to be like a really powdery type of fragrance. It's not a super, like thick and heavy fragrance. Now it can become that, I think, if you really overspray this fragrance. At least for me, the sort of right amount of sprays is right around kind of like 4 sprays or so. At least every time that I've worn this fragrance, that's kind of been like the sort of sweet spot for this. I think once you start getting above maybe like 6 sprays or so, then that's definitely when it could become cloying. But at least at the 4 spray mark, it's enough to where you smell it all day, but it never really becomes like headache inducing, at least for me anyway. And for the most part, what I get with this fragrance is when you first spray it on, you get like this really buttery sort of toffee note. So that's the main thing that you get with this, is that really sort of sweet, buttery toffee. And you get like a blast of like some coffee as well. Now, the coffee, you kind of smell that for probably like the first few minutes or so, and then it kind of goes away for a little while. But then the coffee also, it starts to sort of come back later on in the fragrance, at least, from my wearings that I've gotten from this fragrance. Now, the one thing that I don't necessarily care for in this fragrance is the walnut note. The first time that I actually wore this fragrance, and was just kind of testing it out, that walnut note was very prominent, and it, at least to me anyway, it was a little off-putting. Now, as I started to wear this fragrance more and more, I did start to appreciate the fragrance a little bit more, and the walnut note didn't really bother me as much. But at least, for like my kind of first impression of the fragrance, it kind of had me not liking this fragrance until that walnut note, kind of went away. Now, it does go away. The walnut note kind of sticks around for like that initial sort of hour and a half or so. And then after that, it does kind of go away. And then I feel like at that point, that's when that coffee note starts to really come back. And, you start to get a more enjoyable fragrance. Now, not to say that this overall is not an enjoyable fragrance, because it definitely is. But again, I kind of wish that if they were going to add some sort of nutty essence to this fragrance, I probably would have more so preferred something like almond or something. Maybe that might have made it a little bit more on the powdery end and slightly more feminine. But I do think that it would have been a better smelling fragrance if they would have went that route anyway. But regardless, though, this is a very nice scent, man. Again, you do have to like toffee for sure, because that is the main thing that you get with this. A lot of toffee. You do get some spicy elements to the fragrance as well, which I think is what makes this more of a unisex, sort of gourmand sweet scent, instead of like a feminine type of scent. So I do really like that about the fragrance. And, again, this never really comes off as super powdery or super feminine, at least in my opinion anyway. So I really, really love the way that this smells so far. It is definitely more so like a wintertime scent, in my opinion. So this isn't going to be a very versatile scent. It's not going to be something that I would wear in the spring. I definitely wouldn't wear this in the summertime. And I mean, even in the fall, at least out here in Las Vegas, I wouldn't wear this in the fall. This is strictly going to be, kind of like for this time of the year, where at least here in Las Vegas, in the daytime, the highs are kind of like more so in the 60s. And then towards the nighttime, you start to get more into like the 40s and stuff like that. That's more so the sort of weather that I would be wearing this fragrance in. But, obviously with anyone, you can wear whatever you want. At least for me, though, I just think that this would probably be a bit much in any weather that's, you know, warmer than probably 50 to 60 degrees. All right. So again, versatility wise, this isn't going to be as good in terms of, you know, the times of the year that you can wear it, but it is pretty versatile as far as who can wear it. So again, I do think that this is pretty unisex. I do think that, you know, both men and women would be able to wear this with no problem and wouldn't really feel like, you know, it leaned one way or the other. I think this is going to be one of those scents that it's either going to smell good on you based on your body chemistry, or it's just not. So, you know, that's really the way that this one will go for the most part, in my opinion. So yeah, man, definitely, I would say check out Vanilla Toffee. So far, the performance on this has been pretty good. You know, definitely over 12 hours as far as the longevity goes. And the projection, it is strong, but it, at least on me anyway, it's not like super beast mode to where, again, it's super heavy. It's, you know, headache inducing or cloying or anything like that. That's not really the case, at least for me anyway, considering how sweet this fragrance is. So again, man, performance is really good. And I think with this one, this is definitely a really good sillage monster. So this is definitely something that sort of hangs in the air, and, you know, it definitely, it kind of leaves a nice scent trail, but it's not something that just completely blows my nose out and gives me a headache. All right. So again, that's my sort of initial thoughts on Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee. Now for the Tobacco 01, this fragrance, when I looked it up on Fragrantica, I saw basically a lot of people were kind of comparing this to Initio Side Effect. Now, I think that's a really unfair comparison, because while this fragrance does definitely smell a lot like Side Effect in terms of like how the opening smells, that's really the only sort of comparison that I can really give this to Side Effect. So this does open up with like that sort of, almost you could say, cherry sort of tobacco type of smell. It's definitely, it's not as boozy as what Side Effect is when it initially opens up, but it does have a similar sort of smell to it. And I mean, I think that's probably why a lot of people are kind of comparing this to Side Effect, is just based off of how this smells off of the atomizer or just within the sort of initial spray. But this fragrance, you know, especially once you kind of get minutes into the fragrance, and I'm only talking about maybe about 10 minutes in or so, this definitely starts to change, and it starts to go in a completely different direction than what Side Effect does. So again, this fragrance is not going to really have much of any sort of booziness to it. It does definitely open up with the same sort of, you know, again, sort of fruity, kind of almost slightly boozy sort of tobacco note. But again, this doesn't really have too much booze in it. Now, I do believe that the note breakdown on this one, plum is one of the notes that this has. So you do kind of get like a sweetness from that plum in the opening, but it's not really a boozy opening. It's kind of like a sweet plum mixed with a sort of earthy, kind of smoky tobacco is what I get from this. And once you start to get about maybe 10 minutes into this fragrance, what I mainly get from this is it starts to kind of go in the direction of more so kind of like a mixture of Dior's Tobacular and also Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. Now, it doesn't necessarily smell exactly like those fragrances, but I feel like there's kind of parts of those fragrances that are in this fragrance altogether. So you could kind of say that this is like, it takes elements from Initio Side Effect, from Dior's Tobacular, and then also from, you know, Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. and it kind of, you know, mixes those all together in one to make a really well balanced, you know, really high end smelling fragrance for sure. You definitely, I would say the parts that you get from Dior Tabacular is definitely the honey. The honey does smell pretty similar to Dior's Tabacular, but it's not as thick as Dior's Tabacular. So you do get that really sort of sweet, thick sort of honey note from that for sure. And then also the way that the sort of tobacco comes off in this fragrance, it does come off as like the same sort of tobacco that you get from Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. So it's not like a super heavy tobacco. It's a very smooth, slightly kind of earthy, I guess you could say almost sort of wet kind of tobacco that you get from this. So that's, for the most part, that's what I get, is the opening of, you know, initial side effect, just without really any booze, and you're not also getting any sort of, you're not really getting that much spice really at all from this. So you're getting a slightly sort of similar but more fruitier opening than, you know, initial side effect. And then you're getting, I would say, the smokiness and the honey from Dior's Tabacular. All right, so you're getting that, and then you're getting basically like the tobacco from Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. I don't really get like a dried fruit sort of smell from this fragrance like you get in Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. So this doesn't really have any of that, but it is absolutely, to me anyway, kind of inspired or taking parts of all three of those fragrances and kind of combining them into one. And it does make for a really good combination. Now, this is also going to be another one of those more kind of wintertime types of scents. So this is not necessarily something that I would wear really any other time of the year other than like the winter time. Maybe you could say like early spring when it's still kind of cool outside. I would say you could still probably rock this one, but outside of those times of the year, that, you know, I wouldn't really reach for this one that much. In terms of who could wear this fragrance, to me, I mean, I guess you could say that this is technically a unisex type of scent, but I do think that this does, it does lean a little bit more on the masculine side. So, you know, women that like to wear tobacco scents, if you're already wearing stuff like, you know, Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille or Dior Tabacular, or even, you know, stuff like Mystery Tobacco from Carolina Herrera or something like that, then I think that, you know, you probably will still be able to rock this one with confidence. But I think the people who are going to more so gravitate towards this fragrance are going to be men. All right. Now, for the performance so far, in this fragrance is also very good. So I easily get over 12 hours on skin with wearing this fragrance. And as far as the projection goes, this is a pretty beast mode projecting scent. So this is also another fragrance that really, for me, each time that I've worn this, I don't think I've ever went more than about 5 to 6 sprays or so. So I feel like that's enough really to, you know, kind of get the best out of this fragrance. I think once you start getting into like 8 to 10 sprays of this, it's a bit much. And this is an extrait de parfum. So you really don't need too much of this fragrance to, you know, get a good experience out of this. But yeah, man, this is a very, very high quality scent. You know, it is one of the better sort of tobacco scents that I've smelled. Like I said, it does have elements of other sort of tobacco scents, but I don't think that this is necessarily trying to be a clone of any one of those scents. It just kind of takes certain things from each one of those and kind of adds them in here and there, while at the same time still kind of doing its own sort of thing. All right. So Yeah, man, definitely the Tobacco '01. I do think that I prefer this one over the Shaghaf Vanilla Toffee, you know, just in terms of my personal taste. But I do think that both of these are solid choices. This fragrance, I think, is going to gravitate a little bit more towards women just because of the fact that it's a really, really sweet sort of scent. But again, to me, this one does lean completely unisex. So I don't think that it's a feminine leaning, you know, sort of unisex gourmand scent. And again, I think men are definitely going to gravitate a little bit more towards the Tobacco '01. Just because, I don't know, just to me, it has more of sort of like a masculine sort of lean to it. All right. So that's my take on these two fragrances, these two new fragrances from Swiss Arabian. Definitely let me know in the comments if you all have actually smelled either one of these. Have you all actually purchased these? And how are you liking these fragrances so far? I'll have a follow-up video on these two to kind of give my sort of full breakdown and review. But these two fragrances so far, I am really enjoying from Swiss Arabian, man. So definitely let me know in the comments how you all are enjoying these. Also, I have links in the description to where you can purchase these fragrances. And also, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.